what we see is where the market is going, especially on the government side, is providing that traceability, sovereignty, and transparency that is really going to be required here in the domestic marketplace.
Welcome back inside our proactive newsroom. Joining me now is the Executive Vice President of American Resources Corp, Mark LaVerghetta. And Mark, it's great to see you. How are you?
Doing well, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Good to have you along. Company out with news the last couple of days, so that'd be a great opportunity to have you on and talk about it. First off, we're talking, the work that you do. I'm not sure people would put utility tokens with it, but that's something we're announcing today. So tell me a little bit about the process in getting this all up and running.
Yeah, it expands on a prior announcement with a partnership with Sagent, a really innovative company driving blockchain or tokenization across critical minerals, really, complying with DFARS regulation, defense acquisition regulatory supplement. So really, as we work with Sagent, implement their process within our refining facilities and processes, it's really pulling forward what the market is demanding. And what we see is where the market is going, especially on the government side, is providing that traceability, sovereignty, and transparency that is really going to be required here in the domestic marketplace.
Yeah, maybe talk a bit more about that, because there's quite a process to get from start to finish as far as this is concerned. There's a lot of things that have to be ticked to make sure you get that compliance.
100%. The material origin, obviously some sensitivity with adversarial, I guess, sovereignty, if you will.
Yeah.
The processing integrity, its mass balance, where it's coming from, and then putting that on an immutable, warehouse receipt. So it can be audited, it could be traded. Really, with the market and where the market needs to go, especially, when we look to, standing up a supply chain and decoupling from China, especially with our defense industrial base, the needs that they want to, and showing that full traceability and transparency of origin of where these minerals are coming from and how they're sourced and how they're refined, et cetera. There are a lot of boxes to check to achieve that compliance. We feel our refining platform at ReElement Technologies sits in a good spot to be able to, being a multi-mineral, multi-feedstock platform, we see a lot of different type of inputs. We're doing it today, both at our Noblesville facility and our Marion facility, where we're scaling into currently and scaling throughout the year. But being able to produce ultra-high purity outputs across the critical mineral periodic table and we're doing it today, providing the needs of what the market not only needs from an input perspective, but for sovereignty and traceability perspective as well.
Yeah, so this one first one you're announcing today, in essence, the world's first critical minerals utility token, but there are plans for a lot of other things within the company as well, which lead into yesterday's announcement of your ability to use the technology that you have for Samaritan. And so tell me a bit about how this is all going to play out going forward.
Yeah, today's announcement on the first mineral dollar around neodymium, one of the primary magnet elements. You produce a metal, goes into a high performance rare earth permanent magnet that are used among a lot of applications and really in the commercial sector. But like I said, a multi-mineral, multi-feedstock platform that we operate at ReElement. Where the market is today and the demands that we're seeing, both commercially and through the defense industrial base, are things like yttrium, gadolinium, germanium, and then what we announced yesterday, samarium. The defense industrial base, a lot of the magnets that they utilize are samarium cobalt magnets, and we're starting to see some supply chain gaps in the market as we speak currently today. And so for us to be able to address some of those short, mid, and long-term gaps, we're working with our partnerships in the supply chain today to address some of those challenges. And then layering on, especially for samarium, given that the defense industry uses a lot of samarium cobalt magnets, being able to produce samarium with integrity, with traceability and sovereignty. Again, really going to where the market is needs are going to be. Obviously, there's a lot of urgency in the to fill some of those supply chain gaps, but when you think midterm, long term, address thinking around what those DFAR compliance are going to require, addressing them not only through the compliance standpoint, from the sourcing and production standpoint as well.
And lastly, Mark, do you really feel, you get the feeling that the company is really taking the lead in all of this? And, as I mentioned, it's the world's first. So you are that, but it's also that, people are looking at what you're doing in order to try and follow suit. Do you really feel like a leader within the industry now?
We do. We're trying to stand up a supply chain, and that's complex. ReElement sits at a very interesting spot. Like I said, multi-mineral, multi-feedstock platform, outputs of high purity outputs to meet the need. We de-risk projects because we build capacity to meet supply and demand. But for American Resources and the affiliation between the two entities, American Resources still owns just below 20% of ReElement, but leveraging that ability, taking the words of President Trump, I think today or yesterday, rare earths aren't rare, processing is rare, refining is rare. So leveraging that ability, and for American Resources, our focus on a go-forward basis is really developing that full, comprehensive, critical mineral solution platform to meet the needs of the market. And this is just one part of that evidence of where we're going, to meet these challenges.
Well, Mark, fascinating stuff. Really appreciate your time. Thanks very much. We look forward to our next conversation.
Thanks for having us, Steve. We look forward to continuing to bring exciting updates to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, there is Mark LaVerghetta. He is the Executive Vice President of American Resources Corp.